Folks, welcome back to So Bad It's Good, presented by Betches Media. Guys, today I am so excited to talk about this. We are about to talk about the most authentic reality television series out there, specifically this new iteration. I've been a fan of Hard Knocks since 2001, which follows some of the most amazing football teams as they prepare for their season. And it's just this really groundbreaking behind the scenes coverage of these football teams, professional football teams, as they are going out there on the gridiron. Well, now they have taken it to a whole new level because HBO Max, or Max, has just premiered Hard Knocks in season with the AFC North, and that's documenting the battle for the AFC North crown during the final 6 weeks of the NFL season, as well as the playoff run for the division winner and any AFC North wild card teams. This is an 18-time Emmy-winning series. This goes behind the scenes, on the field, fly-on-the-wall coverage. It covers the Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Cleveland Browns, and it is just one of the best first episodes of a reality docuseries that I've seen, because they are taking what we just saw last week and they are putting together a reality show within a week. It airs on Tuesday nights. You can catch up on the first episode now, and we are very lucky today to have Keith Cossrow, who is the Vice President and Head of Content at NFL Films. Welcome to the show, Keith.
Thanks for having me, Ryan, and appreciate the introduction. This is every Thursday morning at NFL Films, we have a screening. We screen some work from that week. Sometimes we screen other people's work. And we screened this week's episode of Hard Knocks. And it was a great moment for our group because hundreds of people had to pour themselves into this completely for it to make air Tuesday night.
I don't even know how you guys do this, because I watched the first episode twice now, and we just watched the football games a week ago. You guys cover Thanksgiving week with all of these teams, and the fact that, like, first off, I was wondering, how do you remain fly on the wall and not disrupt any sort of things that these football teams are doing? Because, like, the Bengals, I mean, they are, like, trying to get a spot in the playoffs, and, like, it has got to be tense in these scenarios. How do you remain that fly on the wall coverage?
NFL Films has been documenting the National Football League for over 60 years. The first time NFL Films embedded with a team or a coach or a player was 1967 with Vince Lombardi, the year the Packers won the Ice Bowl, the final championship of the Lombardi Packers, and one of the most famous seasons in football history. They won the Ice Bowl. And since that time, every innovation, every bit of equipment we've ever purchased, every technique we've innovated has been with the express intent of capturing the NFL and these players and coaches performing in high stakes, high pressure situations and not getting in their way. And that's why you have things like guys getting mic'd up, and we put cameras in meeting rooms that are unmanned. We call them robotic cameras, so that they're not looking at us or thinking about us or having a boom mic over their heads all day while they're in meetings. So we do everything we possibly can do to not change their routine at all. You're there to capture their routine. You're not there to change it. And it's an adjustment period for anybody all of a sudden to have cameras around recording you at work. But I think the way we shoot it, people get used to it relatively quickly and understand we're not asking them to do anything they don't already do other than put on a microphone occasionally.
Yeah. I mean, what's amazing about Hard Knocks especially too is that it's not just the practices and the game itself, it's the behind the scenes. I mean, we get to share in Thanksgiving week in the first episode where we see Cam Hayward and his brother Connor, the Steelers, they're facing the Bengals that week, and we get to see a Thanksgiving meal between these two brothers, and you get This is what I love about reality TV or docuseries. You get to enter into a different angle than just watching the game. You get to see who these players, what they're about, how they process family and friends, and it makes you root that much harder when it gets to the game. And that's why it's crushing when a play is not made. You're so much more invested in it. I wish you guys would do this the entire season long, but I'm so thankful you're doing it now. Like, was that like when you're covering like the Thanksgiving with the Haywards? Do you realize how special a footage that is?
We do. And we talk a lot about, an episode of Hard Knocks is 45 to 55 minutes typically. You obviously only have, we're making it in real time. The episode's about what happened over the last week. So you don't want to go shoot 8 scenes at home with players and then only use 2 of them, because then you're going to have 6 players say, what the heck did I do that for? So we're shooting hundreds of hours already to make 1 hour of television. The whole ratio is preposterous, but we knew this is the first episode. It's Thanksgiving week. If you know these 4 teams, if you know the culture of them, a really great place to start off the field would be with Cam Hayward. He's the elder statesman of the Steelers, the captain and leader of that team. He's the NFL's reigning man of the year. His little brother plays for the Steelers. And they have a poignant story, a personal story that includes tragedy. Their father, who was an NFL legend in his own right, Craig Ironhead Hayward, died when they were both young. They were both boys. And that's well known to some fans, not all fans. So all that being taken into consideration, it made a lot of sense to ask Cam and Connor, can we spend Thanksgiving with you guys? And they were kind enough to let us do it. And also what adds to it is that Cam wore a mic in practice the day before. And another player asks him, what's the age spread between you and Connor? And he talks about it. Well, my dad died when I was 17 and Connor was only 7. They were 10 years apart. And you learn just in a minute of Cam Hayward at practice having a totally natural, in context conversation, just enough of their story and their history that when you land in their living room two minutes later for Thanksgiving, there's a whole added layer of meaning and feeling. And now we see them through a different lens. And then 5 minutes after that, they're on the field in Cincinnati, and Cam Hayward is sacking Joe Burrow and destroying the Bengals offensive line and having an incredible game, maybe the best game he's played in 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that line with Cam talking about his brother saying, hey, I'm still catching up to who he is. And I thought that was so fascinating as you're focusing on these huge plates of Thanksgiving food. And I was like, hell yeah. I eat like a football player. This is amazing. And then what's so great, and especially, I mean, there's every one of these teams have this great story, but you have the Bengals head coach before the game saying, hey, if we could choose any game coming at this point, it would be the Steelers at home. And so you're like, well, I'm kind of rooting for the Bengals. They're having this really tough go of it. Joe Burrow is, highly heralded, but having a tough season. And you even have a hot mic moment from Joe Burrow that I've been dying about, that I think everybody's talking about, where, he's just out there, throwing passes and stuff, and said he bought a $3 million Batmobile that is not street legal. And I even read about that they were selling these Batmobiles, and Joe Burrow confirms that he has bought one on a fly-on-the-wall conversation. He's not doing this for the cameras. He's talking to his players. And I was like, and they were talking about, should I drive it to the stadium? Should I pull up in the club to the Batmobile? And I just thought, what another great moment that you would not be able to have without this show.
Well, we were as shocked as anyone when we heard that. And he's not doing it for the cameras because he wasn't even mic'd up. So Jamar Chase is the one who was mic'd up at that moment. In that
crowd. Wow.
So you're picking it up off of Jamar's mic. And obviously those moments, we know we're all fascinated by these guys, right? Like Joe Burrow's a fascinating guy. People can't take their eyes off him. Anytime we put out a social clip with Joe Burrow, mic'd up, it goes viral.
Oh, my co-host of this show is in love with him. She would ruin her marriage for Joe Burrow, and she is so mad this season. She feels like if she watches them, she's bad luck now, so she doesn't even watch the games. But I was texting her and I go, "You gotta watch Hard Knocks. This is insane." And then they end up losing the game to the Steelers, but at the same time, you're rooting for the Steelers because you know these stories that you guys have focused on with Hard Knocks. And now I'm just waiting for the new episode because I want to know how the Bengals how they approach that loss and how down they potentially are. And these coaches you see in these meetings going, this is what it takes to be a true champion. Like when you're down, you got to stay positive. You got to make those plays. Like what kind of footage can you even tease what you're getting right now in terms of the Bengals locker room?
Well, the first thing I would say is we've been doing Hard Knocks since 2001. We've been doing these access shows in season for over for about a decade. We did 5 seasons of a show called All or Nothing on Amazon. And that wasn't real time. And then we did 3 seasons of Hard Knocks in season with just one team. And we felt like that wasn't quite the right format. And that's why we moved to this one where we cover an entire division. The challenges are incredible. It's the hardest thing I think we've ever done here at NFL Films, which is saying a lot. But one of the things that made us so interested by this project and the possibilities of it is to go back to what you said about Jax Taylor's Saturday night meeting, the rivalries, the passion, the intensity of these divisional games, and the fact that they're all competing for the same thing and they know each other so intimately. It's like tapping into a new vein. It's like when you're drilling for oil and you strike oil and you're just like, oh my God, like we struck, like you just know there's so much there. And we've never been able to get into rivalry on this show before.
Yeah.
Whether you're a Bengals fan and you're disappointed by the fact that they're 4-8, or a Browns fan and they're 3-9, or a Steelers or Ravens fan, the moment in this show, about 14 minutes in, where the Bengals and Steelers prepare for each other, and it's intercut, and it's a massive 4-minute montage, I think is I don't know if we're allowed to curse on this show. That's the holy shit.
You are. Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. That's the holy shit moment. This is the holy shit moment for all of us. And I think it's the holy shit moment for the audience, where you go, okay, I've never seen this before. This is cool. This is new. Nobody else can. You've never seen 2 teams preparing for each other.
Oh, it's completely unique because normally with Hard Knocks, you guys, if you don't watch, you're watching players get cut from the roster before they get their starting lineup, the go team. And so that's a different kind of heartbreak that you're watching because you're growing like where you like players and end up getting cut. It's a whole different ball game, but now you are deep into the season. We are nearing the final here and people are fighting for their lives. And like you said, these rivalries, I love that you put up at the very beginning for people that might not be familiar with football. Like I'm saying, even if you don't like football, this will get you to like football. Like for me, I like these shows sometimes better than the games. Where Steelers are 8-3 at the top, Ravens 8-4, the Bengals 4-7, and the Browns 3-8. So you already realize that the Bengals and the Browns, they got a lot of work to do going in, and that just adds so much more intensity to all of this. With HBO Films and Hard Knocks, why did you guys decide the AFC? Like, why did you decide that was the one we wanted? This is the division we want to focus on.
I grew up in one of the cities in that division.
In Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Pittsburgh. I've been living with this division my whole life. So I had a strong point of view, certainly. Not that.
And this is their first time on Hard Knocks, by the way. The Steelers, this is their first time participating in Hard Knocks.
It is. And so I am particularly nervous about the whole enterprise. If this thing goes sideways for the Steelers, I may not be allowed back home. They take football seriously in Pittsburgh, Ryan.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah. And we knew, this had to go to a vote with the NFL owners to go to a whole division. They voted. There's a resolution that essentially permits NFL Films to choose a team to do Hard Knocks in its various iterations each year. And so we had to change the resolution to do it this way. But we just felt it was a much fairer approach for the teams, the players, the coaches, everybody involved. That, all right, you're not going to be it's not all on you. Your whole division's going to do it, which really levels the playing field for anyone who perceived it to be a competitive challenge, which we always felt it wasn't. But you understand, yeah. I mean, all of a sudden you're at the height of your season and it's on TV is a different kind of challenge and different kind of pressure than you're accustomed to. And these guys are on TV all the time. But once it was approved by the owners, we felt the only place we could start was the AFC North. And the reason for that is, and it's spelled out very early in the show, it's a uniquely intertwined division. These cities are right on top of each other. They occupy one very tight region, that mid-Atlantic region of Ohio and Western Pennsylvania and Baltimore. And the weather, the intensity of the rivalries. If you're a football fan, for the last 20 plus years, there has not been a rivalry that matches Steelers-Ravens. And there may not be a rivalry in all of pro sports over the last 20 years that matches Steelers-Ravens. It has the intensity, the history, the passion of the great college rivalries. And that's the feeling it has in those cities and among those fan bases, and I think among the players. So the idea of putting that rivalry on Hard Knocks and the Browns and Bengals, who feel just as strongly about both each other and the Ravens and Steelers, was something we felt that all football fans would love. You don't just need to be a fan of these four teams. And if you're not a football fan, this is as likely as anything you're ever going to see to get you on board with what we're
Yeah, I mean, it's visceral in such a way, and Hard Knocks and NFL Films, I mean, even just the technology that's been advanced in these last 20 plus years. I mean, I remember, I don't know which season, a couple seasons ago, where you guys did one of the most beautiful drone shots at I think it was the Cowboys Stadium. That was just, it was insane. But like, even in this, just the camera work. I mean, I know this is a little inside baseball, but I was just like, it has to take so many people. You guys like, and just, it's so crisp, the imagery and the sound, you know, and you can just feel, even when they're like making the plays just with the, it's like a video game of like, and smash. And it really takes you there in such a VR experience. And I just like, hats off to you and your team, because it just seems like it keeps advancing and advancing. And it's such a beautiful way to be able to put us in that driver's seat. Are you guys always looking for the next technological advancement that you can throw into these?
Every day. And thank you. You know, those are kind words. And I think everybody here would take great pride hearing them, because that is the focus of NFL Films every day, is how can we do better capturing and presenting the sport of pro football to the world? And we bring every technological advance we can find to bear on the screen. And we invest a great deal in infrastructure and equipment and talent. We have a staff of cinematographers that, you know, not many production companies have 7 cinematographers on their staff.
Yeah.
and 3 location sound engineers. And NFL Films itself, I'm here in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. So it's a suburb of Philly, near Cherry Hill. That's where NFL Films is. And we're a giant, almost an old style Hollywood studio here in South Jersey, where everything happens under one roof. We've got mixing studios and color grading and video online finishing. We have 100 plus producers here during football season, most of whom have their own Avid, which is, you know, the editing equipment that we use. And then a whole separate side of online editing and where we put the shows together and up-res them and finish them. So everything we do has been built to do this show in this way, to do something that literally no other production company in the world would even consider doing what we did this week, which is to embed a crew. Like, there's over a dozen people in each of the 4 cities sending 20 to 30 hours of footage back to Films every day via high-speed broadband, and it's all got to be ingested and then put into our systems, and then we have like 30 people logging footage day and night, and then another staff of 20 editors.
I was trying to think of a way to explain this to the audience, and this is like small scale, but everybody always heralds Saturday Night Live. Oh, they have to do a show in a week. Oh my gosh, they have to do a show in a week. They have to do all the sketches. They have to put it up. They are doing one static location with a bunch of sets. Think about being in multiple different cities at one time, getting all of this footage. You have 7 days to air. You have literally up to the minute, and that's why I was like kind of fascinated with, just from the production standpoint, is when do you guys lock and edit on this? Because you have to air on Tuesdays. That's the deal. You have this week's games coming up. So you are getting all the footage right now going into these games this weekend. And then by Tuesday, when is the final edit make it so it can be uploaded?
The first time we look at a long sequence of what is in play, we've been editing all week, logging all week. Saturday afternoon, we look at, a 1 hour timeline for the first time, the people putting the show together. So we try to jam 2 cuts in Saturday. We watch it. All right, let's get back to it. Take 5 hours, make revisions. Let's watch it again Saturday night. You got to watch it. You got to jam as many cuts as you can into the weekend, right? That's how it gets good. You're not trying to make error. You're trying to make something great. And so then Sunday, 11 a.m., then we bring in the executives. So my counterpart at HBO, Bentley Weiner, the executive producer, and her partner, Abteen. And then Ross Kidover, the president of NFL Films, he comes in. So we all sit together. We watch it with the producers of the episode Sunday, 11 a.m. before the games are played. And now this is everything up to the game. So then we see the games played, assuming they're at 1 o'clock Sunday, which now half of them aren't. But by Sunday night, those revisions to part 1 of the show have to be done, and we got to lock picture and turn it in. So then we can start post-production on that. Simultaneously, now we got to edit the games, which is a whole other ball of wax that requires a whole second team of editors. So now they're editing the game while the first half of the show is in post-production, and then we start watching cuts of the game Monday around noon, and then that goes on all day. On top of everything, the teams need to get a look at it, as is well known. The teams, if you're going to do something like this, they got to get a look. And so they get a look Monday morning because, we can't be giving away secrets that would compromise our strategy. If there's something on a chalkboard, on a whiteboard in a meeting room that gives away an important play design, we would be done. The show would be shut down.
Well, that's everybody that works on this has to sign intense NDAs just to make sure nobody from any other opposing team is reaching out and going, what's it like in the Bengals locker room right now? Like I was even thinking about things like that.
Yeah. And there are so many dynamics at work, and we need to be sensitive to that, because there's stuff you think you understand, but you don't. And a team, one of the teams might say, hey, we can't show that, because if we show that, we're going to have and it's not because they're trying to censor anything. It's because, we're not here to blow up a locker room. We're not here to reveal some secret that could impact somebody's life. This is a private, sacred space, these meetings rooms and these locker rooms. And we have to be sensitive to that. We really do. So they got to get a look at it. And then, so you finally lock picture Monday night, and we make changes even while it's in post. We lock the game Monday night. Now the next Monday, we're going to put the Monday night game, Bengals Cowboys. We're going to put in episode 2. So that show is going to premiere Tuesday night. The Bengals are going to play the Cowboys Monday night, and we're going to cut that game and we're going to put it in episode 2, unless, there's an act of God or something. But that's our plan. Plans change. We did it once last year. We did the Dolphins last year. They played the Titans on a Monday night, and we had a team of a dozen editors pull an all-nighter, and we had a 15-minute cut of that game on the air 24 hours later. You wish you could put something on the screen like, hey, listen, everybody, this fucking thing was edited like 3 hours ago.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Like
We've
you
had so much Red
know how
Bull.
hard this is, but you don't get to do that on TV. Nobody gives a shit. It's just, is it good or not? Am I bored?
Oh my
Because if
God.
I'm bored, I'm changing the channel. You don't get bonus points because it's hard. It's just,
Oh
is it
God.
good? Is it a good show or is it not? Am I entertained
Well,
or am I bored?
there almost needs to be a documentary of this entire production because it's its own like football game. It's its own like, team of like, we got to put the best thing out there. This is what we work for. And so it's really interesting if you think about it in this kind of Inception sort of way of like all of this going on. It's its own battle in itself. And then I just want to point out too, and I'm so happy. I mean, this I think is in the DNA of Hard Knocks as well, is that Liev Schreiber is our narrator as always. And he has just one of the best damn narrator voices that you could ever, like, it gives you chills, his narration. So when are you getting, like, is Liev a part of it? Like, does he record all at once? Is he recording throughout the week? Like, are there a lot of alt lines, like on a sitcom where they're just giving him 30 lines and like, do it this way, do it that way?
We have an absolutely incredible writer who's been writing these scripts for a long time, named Jerry Reimel. He's just, he's the one who's turning all those phrases. And Liev narrates typically on Tuesday morning, 6 or 7 a.m. So we have a writer's room. We sit with Jerry. We scream and yell at each other for 2 or 3 hours Monday night. That's one of the 8 things that's going on Monday night. And trying to get every line right, make sure we're getting every line dialed in and as precise as we possibly can. And in the voice of what Liev likes to call the guy. Liev, as a classically trained actor, thinks of that sports narrator that he does so incredibly well as a character. Like, he likes to call him the guy. So sometimes he'll say, the guy would never say this. Hey, Liev, the same guy has been writing these lines for you for 20 years now. Like,
the guy wouldn't say that's great.
But Liev's awesome. He's so good. He's such a great actor, and he has such a great feel for actually the guy, for the voice. And this is NFL Films, right? Like, this is where the voice of God came from, John Facenda, the original narrator that everyone grew up with that voice in their head. When you go in your backyard throwing a football to yourself, you hear that narrator. So Liev narrating this show for as long as he has and as well as he has is it's a huge part of the formula of the show, especially now. Most documentaries don't use narrators anymore. And I think it's very important that you called it part of the DNA of Hard Knocks, and that's absolutely right. We view it as essential that, Liev's part of it. He's part of what makes it Hard Knocks. And we would never want that to change.
No, and I would beg, and I don't think this is even on but like so many people are turning to AI now, and I just like never let that happen. There is such a personal feel you get with his voice and with, like, I want to know that humans are making this, and you really get this feeling that this is what this Hard Knocks is about. And I think it's funny that season when Liev actually popped up on screen. I was like, whoa, Liev's there. Like, the Jets game, and he was like, getting the football thrown to him. I was like, this is hysterical. As we look,
the HBO executive producer, and that was awesome. Little known fact, there's one season Liev didn't narrate the show.
Which season was that?
The 2007 Chiefs. Paul Rudd narrated it. Chiefs.
Well, he loves it. He's a huge Chiefs from Kansas. I'm from Kansas
too. Job,
so
Paul Rudd. People don't know that. No, Paul Rudd is the only other person ever to narrate Hard Knocks.
I had no clue about that, actually, and now I got to go back and check that out. But Liev is one of my favorites. Like, just another great element to all of this. Also, is it weird for you? I mean, you're from Pittsburgh and all that. Like, you have to keep your own loyalties, and you love football yourself. How is that? I mean, these people working on this, I'm sure they're all fans. Like, is it hard not to let your personal investment as an actual fan yourself affect a certain cut or a certain way? Like, I mean, and by the way, this does not feel favorable. Like, everybody is treated equally, but is that hard for you guys sometimes? And if you watch that Steelers game, were you like, hell yeah, the offsides, haha.
It's funny. It probably would have been better for the show for the Bengals to have won. So I've been here my whole adult life, and that's a long time. I've been here since 1997. That's one of the funny quirks of NFL Films is that most of the people here spend their whole adult life here. It's one of those rare places. It's a special place. And we encourage that like if you go to the NFL league office in New York, it's like leave your loyalties at the door. At NFL Films, because you're the NFL, it's like, we're the government, so to speak. At NFL Films, it's like, no. We want the passion at all times to come out in everything we do. We are a bunch of people who love football, whether we played it, whether we grew up in a place like Pittsburgh, where it's just it's infused in every fiber of life in Western Pennsylvania. That makes our work better. We want people who love football, who, if they weren't working here, would still be spending 12 hours on a Sunday on their couch or in a stadium watching the NFL. That's going to make you better at this job. So you learn very early on how to root for your team that you love, that you grew up with, that your family and friends all love. But that doesn't change your ability to make a great movie about every other team. In fact, it only informs it and makes you better at it. And this one, for me personally, it's just incredibly special. We've always wanted the Steelers to be on Hard Knocks. It's not, and Mike Tomlin has been famously kind of opposed to it for all these years. But man, he's been.
Well, I think now he sees after that first episode, I think his tune might change a little bit. And also, you got this amazing moment with Mike Tomlin. There was just under 12 minutes remaining in the first quarter of Sunday's game, and he's talking to. I'm trying to remember the scene, but he's like he's talking to
George
Pickens. And he's like, I need you to stay with me. This ain't going to decide the outcome of the game. It ain't going to decide the outcome of the game. Look at me. Are you all right? Let's go. After a play didn't go their way. And I just thought, what an amazing moment to see that coach in action on the sidelines, really rooting for his player and inspiring his player. And they went on to win that game.
I think Mike Tomlin means a lot to a lot of people. He's one of the best, not only coaches, but he's like a generational leader, that a lot of people look up to and see as an example of how you can lead your own way with your own voice. His voice is so unique. The way he goes about his business is a source of fascination for anyone who loves football and anyone who loves and studies leadership and who admires different styles of leadership. And he's such a great example. So we always felt, and this goes way beyond football, it would just be really special to get a glimpse into the way he leads and the way he communicates behind closed doors. So, we don't take this opportunity lightly at all. Like you want to get this right, because we'll probably never have this chance again, but it could have an impact on a lot of people. You think about, I don't know if you have kids. I've got two sons who are teenagers, and, you coach little league and youth sports, and you see all these dads out there acting like assholes. I was one of them and still am. And, there's just so much to be learned by watching somebody like Mike Tomlin, who's the very best at this in the world. And he knows how to talk to people like a human being and treat them with respect and dignity and communicate on a level that is so deep and meaningful that he invariably impacts everybody who plays for him. And players who have played for him over the last 17 years talk about it, the impact he's had on their lives. And so I just think he's such a special case. And John Harbaugh the same, He's been at Baltimore.
They're all great. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Each one of these teams that you decide to focus on, there is something that you root for by the end of that first episode. And also, I want to point out the Steelers were coming off a loss from the Browns, who were also featured on the show. And that's why I'm just so interested. You know, we got 5 more weeks of this, and I can't wait to see. Like, it's real. Like, this is real life, but I can't wait to see where the story goes. Like I said, I can't wait to see what's in the Bengals locker room this week. How do you come back at this point in the season, realizing you're 4-8 and you've lost, like, you know, like the playoffs? You might not make the playoffs for the first time. There are so many little curiosities I have that I'm sure you guys as well. And it's Thursday when we're talking right now. What is, as we start winding down, what's the rest of your day to day look like? Like, how does this, like, when do you start feeling the heat? Like, or is it just 7 days you were just at a 100?
Well, the way we do it, you know, this is actually the quiet part of the week for me, and my role here is a little bit different now. I'm, you know, I oversee all the creative here, but you know, when Hard Knocks is going on, obviously that demands a lot of your time. But so what we do is we have 2 teams of producers that alternate episodes, because it's so exhausting and draining that you finish an episode of this show, you need a few days off. Also, the next week's episode has to start while this week is still going. So having 2 teams staggered and alternating allows us to do this in the best possible way. So the episode 2 team, the episode 1 team right now is they're at home sleeping for the most part, or working on other projects, because we've got 90 other shows that we got to do. But the episode 2 team now, we're like heading into the heart of it. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday are the key editing days. So they know what the episode, the shape of it generally, they have a plan. And then stuff's going to happen, you know.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen in a practice. Somebody's going to make a speech in a meeting, like the Browns assistant offensive line coach did last week, that you see it and say, well, that's got to be in the show. That wasn't an index card on anybody's board yesterday, but it is now. and so you're constantly adjusting and adapting as the week goes on, but they're heading into it, and we'll have a team here that comes in about 3:00 in the afternoon, because we start feeding back footage throughout the afternoon. We shoot all morning. And so they'll log till about 1 a.m. tonight, today's footage. So then tomorrow the editors will come in and they'll have today's footage to edit, and so on. It'll go on. And like I said, we'll get to Saturday. The goal is to go home Friday night with the cards on the board. You know, if you TV terms, you got to have the cards.
No, I mean, listen, this is for people. I talk about this all the time, even in terms of just reality shows you see on Bravo. It's a very similar process. It's just way more extended, but they're putting those, like, you know, logging all of the footage that they got. They're like putting the stories together, your A, your B, your C storyline, and sometimes surprises will happen. And I was like, even from the footage you've gotten so far for the second episode, and I know you can't tease too much, but have there been already surprises, or like, whoa, that's interesting, that's something we didn't expect?
It's pretty early in the week. The NFL teams don't really even start practice typically till Wednesday. And, you know, the Ravens are on a bye week, and the Browns played Monday night. The Bengals play next Monday night. So everybody's schedule's a little wonky right now, with the exception of maybe the Steelers. So it's early days for this episode. Ask me again in 2 days. There might be a different answer.
Okay. I'll call you back in 2 days. No, I now I'm kind of just like, damn, I want the rest of these episodes now, but that's what's so great is that you will be able to follow along in this visceral experience every Tuesday on Max. You can catch up on the first episode right now, and I really highly recommend that you do. Are there a lot of things that are like heartbreaking that you have to leave on the cutting room floor? Because I imagine you have so much wealth of material. There are so many great stories that might not fit into the overall narrative that you're trying to accomplish that week. Before
I forget, I want to say, you know, this is going to go as long as one of the AFC North teams is still playing. We're not stopping at the end of the regular season. This is going through.
Oh, so going through the playoffs.
Hopefully through the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow. So you're going to get Kendrick Lamar potentially up close.
There you go. Yeah, Kendrick will pop up in the Super Bowl episode. maybe he'll say hi to Tomlin or Lamar Jackson, whichever, or Joe Burrow, whichever. Or Jameis. The Browns aren't out of it yet either.
I don't know
Everybody's
about Joe.
still alive. To go back to the question you were asked that question again, because now I lost my train of thought, but I wanted to mention that.
No, I was saying, is there things so far that you've had to let hit the cutting room floor, even though they were amazing, that it didn't fit into the overall narrative of an hour-long show?
Well, that's one of the tricks here, because it is such a fast-moving train. You got to be careful not to. All right, something didn't make this episode, and some things are time sensitive, right? Like something that's specific to the Bengals preparing for the Steelers is not relevant right now. But there are other things that might be something you picked up on a practice wire, a conversation that didn't make last week's show, but maybe relevant to a story we're going to tell down the road. So we have to over communicate, talk to each other. The two teams, we have supervising producers and showrunners above them. Over communicate. Hey, there's an awesome scene that didn't make episode 1. It might be really good in the 3rd episode when we tell this guy's story. Sometimes we say like, all right, we're planning on telling the story of this character, this player, but it feels like, I always say, like, it doesn't feel fully baked. Put it back in the oven for another week and let it cook a little more. Or there's just not a moment. Like there was a really good sequence about Derrick Henry that was edited last week. It was like an introduction to King Henry, the great Ravens running back who will be a Hall of Famer. His first season in the AFC North, and he's been incredible. It just there wasn't like a great moment to hang it on, to build to, that was like, it was more like just sort of a recap of this is Derrick Henry, this is the season he's had. You can see that anywhere. That's not what Hard Knocks is there for. So it's like, we'll go easy on the Derrick Henry this week and wait for something that feels a little bit more urgent to get on the air and build around. It's like, it's TV, it's storytelling 101. You need moments to build around. All of TV is about delivering moments. And in that first episode, probably the best moment is one no one would have anticipated. There's a second-year outside linebacker on the Steelers named Nick Herbig that nobody outside of Pittsburgh has ever heard of. He's one of these outside edge rushers that the Steelers seem to grow on a farm somewhere in Wisconsin. That's where they got TJ Watt. And then they pluck him in like the 4th round of the draft every year. And then 2 years later, the Steelers, who's that guy? He's some guy they grew on the outside linebacker farm. The Steelers have, and then you see he makes the biggest play of the game. He sack, strip, fumble Joe Burrow, return for a touchdown. It turned out to be the game-winning play. And then at that moment, we dive back into the week. You saw a glimpse of it earlier. Tomlin preparing Herbig for this matchup with the Bengals left tackle. And then we show even more of it. Tomlin talking to him in practice, prepping him to go one-on-one with Orlando Zeus Brown, the great left tackle on the Bengals. And so that moment that wasn't a card on anybody's board, right? But it happened, and then you've got
and then you're ready for it. You got the footage to support that outcome. And that, guys, that's what's so exciting, is that, just to remind you, once again, this isn't just the game. You are in the room. They are watching the film on the opposing team. They are saying, look at this. You got to cover this guy this way because he's going to know our tricks this way. And it is so interesting because you see how much work. And remember, this is all built on dreams. All of these players worked their whole lives to get to this opportunity. There is so much on the line, especially in these last 6 weeks. So there's this underlying pressure that that they feel, that then the audience feels. So it's this really amazing. I mean, throw all the Emmys at this right now, because I'm telling you, this is truly, and I know actors say don't read their reviews, but you have to be pretty, I don't know if you pay attention, but you got to be pretty damn satisfied with the reaction so far with that first episode.
A pretty good indication was Pat McAfee called yesterday and said, okay, that was pretty good. And
that was pretty good.
He and his crew they don't hold back, on the McAfee show, and to hear them complimentary. And no, you notice, I mean, we can tell when, anybody who makes TV knows when something's poking through and moving the needle, and that it's so hard. You know this, Ryan, right? Like moving the needle now is so hard. There's so many different things we can watch just on our
dude.
phone. You're like, you know,
on Max alone, there's like a billion things to choose from.
Right. To make a TV show that people are going to give a shit about and go on their social media feed and write something nice about it and not troll you and not be angry about whatever. It's hard. It's hard to do. And you've got to push the boundaries, push your own limits to try to create something that people that can't be found anywhere else. You got to find a way to differentiate what you're producing. And I think that's what landed us here in this really challenging moment. Like we're all looking at each other for the last 3 months going, how are we going to do this? And the answer was we're just going to pound away at it every day, figure it out the best we can. And then it'll start and we'll have to blow it all up because nothing is going to go according to plan, which is exactly what happened last week. But we have an incredible group of people here who work so hard and care so much and are just an unbelievable team in their own right. And it's more than just making a TV show in a week. It's basically making a movie in a week, because of the art, the craftsmanship, the cinematography, the use of music, the editing, the sequence in the pregame of the Bengals Steelers game. We if you watch it again, you notice the screen drops to a letterbox for that 2 minutes, and a Rage Against the Machine song comes on, and the color grading is a little different, and all of a sudden it takes on this quality that's even more cinematic than the show aims to be, and we. It was something we talked about trying, and one of our really, really spectacular producers, Jeff Cameron, came up with that idea. And when I first heard it, I thought, I don't know, guys, that might pull you right out of the moment. And it worked. It was so cool. I thought it worked. It was so good, but you're always trying to come up with ways to cut through, to move the needle, to make audiences feel something. And it's really gratifying when you do, especially on something as hard as this.
Yeah, man, everything. It's a bunch of industry professionals that are working at their highest level. And I'm telling you guys, I mean, I'm really, this was just I watched it twice and I'm so excited for Tuesday. It just really is, you guys are on a level of your own at this point, and I'm so excited to have been able to talk to you today. I know you're a busy man, so thank you for spending all of this time with us. And I'm you guys out there listening or watching, go watch this show. I'm telling you, go watch it with your husband or your boyfriend or your wife. Go watch this show. You will not regret it. I'm telling you, even if you are like a Real Housewives fan, this has all the elements of every reality show that you love, but it is just done at such a level that it kind of just shows you the power of storytelling, and then you're kind of just in awe of the craftsmanship that's put around it. So, Keith Cossrow, I hope we get to see the Super Bowl. Man, this has been such an honor to talk to you because I truly have been watching Hard Knocks from the beginning, and I'm not even the biggest football guy, but Hard Knocks, I'm a huge Hard Knocks guy. So this has been so amazing. Thanks, dude, for taking us behind the scenes.
Hey, really, really appreciate it, Ryan.